Now that we are at the final stage, final phase, should I say, of the sample preparation protocol, let's do a quick recap of what we've done, the step we've taken up until this phase. Recall that initially we had those tubes we're looking at here, those microcentrifuge tubes. We labeled them appropriately. A set of cal curving controls was labeled, as well as the patients. As you can see, all those numbers, they refer to a patient. And we added a solution, a mixture that contained an enzyme, internal standard, and also a buffer. Now, an equal amount of that solution was added to each one of those microcentrifuge tubes. And then we added an equal amount of each calibrators, as well as the samples and the controls, into each one of those tubes as well. We vortex them, like we showed you earlier. We vortex them using this machine. It vigorously vortex anything you put in there. And then we incubated them. We incubated them for about an hour and a half, and then we allowed them to cool down to room temperature before actually dispensing an equal amount of acetonitrile onto each one of them. And that acetonitrile, as you recall, the purpose of it was to actually precipitate the protein that is in those microcentrifuge tubes to the bottom of the tube. Now, once we added the acetonitrile, we placed them in the centrifuge, where they were centrifuged for about 8 minutes at 10,000 RPM. Now, the final phase consists of two things. First, we have the final vials. Like I said, those are the vials that we will place in the machine. So, first off, we need to dispense an equal amount of the mobile phase A into each one of those final HPLC vials. Once that's done, and we all know the repeater pipette is the best, actually my favorite tool when it comes to dispensing equal volume of the same solution into the tubes. It actually helps you. It helps you not to waste a lot of tips. It also helps you keep the dispensing an accurate and precise amount of whatever solution onto each one of these tubes. And of course, you're going to set it to the appropriate value. We want to dispense 300 microliters of mobile phase A. This is the same mobile phase that will be used in the separation of the drugs. All right. I had to go grab something real quick. Now comes the time where we're going to dispense, actually aliquot, remove, proper word, 300 microliters of the supernatant from each microcentrifuge tubes into the appropriate HPLC final valve. This has to be done with utmost care. You notice what I did? I looked at my valve, my actual microcentrifuge tubes. I checked, double check, triple check the label in it, and make sure I dispense the supernatant from that microcentrifuge tubes onto the corresponding final HPLC valve. Otherwise, you would not know what drugs come from what patient. It's a pretty long process. As you can see, first off, it took an hour and a half to incubate the tubes. It took about another 15 minutes to allow them to cool down to room temperature. Another 10 minutes in the centrifuge. Plus the time it takes for me to pipe it from this to that, from that to this, and also vortex, vigorously shaking those things. It's a pretty long process. It took literally 4.5 hours for me to process, prep roughly 50 samples. It could have been much easier had we had an automatic liquid handler, just like the Tican or the Hamilton, but we do not have that. Since they're cost an arm and a leg, I am forced to use my arm. Okay? It is not the easiest process. However, it feels good when you complete the process and provide an accurate and precise result to the providers. One thing I always keep in mind when I'm in the lab, I treat those patient samples as if they were those of my relatives, my sisters, as if they were actually my own samples. And once you do this, there's no way you would not provide the best, well, accurate and precise results to the providers. You will have a good result, good definition, good resolution of the peaks. Everything would be good. Well, we'll get to see that tomorrow once the run is over. Tomorrow we will proceed, we'll continue on with data analysis, where I'll show you how my curve looks, how the sample preparation went, whether we had discrepancies, whether we had errors and mistakes. I'm gonna leave you today, and hopefully you enjoyed the time we spent today showing you one of the most popular, one of the simplest extraction procedure involved in urine drug testing. Once again, thank you very much for your time, and I hope to see you tomorrow.